Okay, so what I want to talk about today is an idea of kind of how close we are to getting a full picture of research activity and really what we do with that. Just to kind of give a start off, so I'm from the University of Birmingham. Some stats about Birmingham. We are a lovely young city. We've got a huge amount, a really big young population, and 6 universities, and so it's a really nice, vibrant place. We're smack bang right in the middle of the UK, and so we can get access to most places really easily. I have noticed with this actually that Northern Ireland seems to have just dropped off my little map, so I've obviously just worked out what to do about the Brexit border situation. We're just going to delete Northern Ireland. So the university itself, we're a couple of miles outside of the city centre, a really big campus. It's so beautiful, especially on blue sunny days like this. We've got a big academic population, and we've got one of the biggest student populations in the country. We have a really broad range of subjects that we teach and conduct research in, and it means that actually there's that means quite a challenge when it comes to collecting research information and how we kind of use that and report it within the institution. The other thing, anyone who's in Barcelona last year will know that I milked this for what it was worth in one of my presentations. Our clock tower, tallest freestanding clock tower in the world, is in fact one of the 2 towers from the Lord of the Rings. And I mean this was me at the top of the Rocky Steps 2 days ago, which I walked up really slowly whilst other people ran. So I've been project managing, I project managed Pure implementation in 2012. Since then, I've moved over from the IT project management side, and I now work as part of the research planning team who look at REF, our national excellence framework for looking at research, and also kind of impact development. And my side of things, I look after the research information management side. That's not just Pure, but we have SciVal and other systems as well. A lot of that means working really closely with other teams. We can't all do it just within the planning office. We have to work with the library and support services and lots of other people to be able to bring all of this together. Any of you who have seen me present before has probably seen this slide, but I kind of trot it out every time anyway. So I looked this up once, and Karen is both Scandinavian and means pure. So basically, Pure and I were meant to be together. Okay, so the UK research landscape, just to kind of give you an idea about the kind of areas that we're working in. The REF is our kind of national framework for assessing our research quality, and we get a huge amount of money from government for that if we do well. So there is a real driver to make sure that we are reporting and looking at our research information in the best way possible. Also open access, both through funder requirements and through REF requirements, is something really key that we have to do, and it's certainly something that drives usage of Pure really strongly, that academic staff know they have to come in and make their work open access in quite short time frames, and it means that our engagement with Pure has really risen over the past few years since that's been in place. So we did a very quick implementation in 2012. We had quite a lot of research information pulled together anyway in an old system, so we're able to just pull that over from the legacy system and link everything together. It was incredibly quick because we had to get going with the REF module. And that was really the focus of Pure when we put it in 2012. I would say one of the things that we've noticed between then and now is that Pure is so much bigger and it does so much more that actually over the past 6 years we've really had to rethink what we're doing and what the possibilities of Pure are in comparison to when we bought it back then. The amount of data that we have in Pure has gone up a lot in the past 6 years. Crazy. Outputs, obviously, especially, that's the main thing that's in there. We've got about 110,000 outputs in Pure now. So outputs, yeah. Impact, activities, media, that's growing. We're not quite there yet, but that's where we really have a focus now to say, okay, what can we start collecting in Pure? And how can we start asking people to do this and spend the time on it? We've got about 7,000 activity records in there now, so there is a real difference, and that is something we want to focus on. But for me, I think really that a question I've been kind of pondering over the past 12 months is, we collect all this information. There's loads of it. Pure is bursting with it. We have other systems as well. But actually, what are we doing with it? Does it serve our needs? And does it answer the questions that we need it to ask? This is some work that was done recently by a graduate trainee who I gave a project to for a couple of months to just go around the university and talk to other teams about the kind of data they collect around research activities. One of the things that really came out was quite how many systems are being used. So in here, Blackboard is our CRM that are used by our Darrow and business engagement teams. External relations have some of their own databases. We've got Scival and Scopus and Pure that we're looking at, and then we've got lots of different little databases. My favourite one being the cultural collections ones that's called Mimsy, which I really love because that's my cat's name. So I think kind of what this shows is actually just the breadth of what's being used. The fact that some of these are linked together, but not all of them. Some of them are collecting the same type of data, but not all of them. And they come out in different reporting tools. And so nothing is joined up properly at Birmingham yet. But we get asked lots of questions. There is a feeling now from leadership within the university that they've invested in all these systems. They've invested time and resource into getting Pure used properly with these other systems, and they want to be able to get the rewards from that. They want to be able to answer the questions that they need asked. So these are just a range of questions that I've been asked in the past 12 months to be able to answer. Some of them really easy to answer, some of them not so much. The easy ones really are around individual members of staff and their activity. Where are we publishing? What have we done in the past month? They're really nice, simple things that we can jump into Pure or Scival or somewhere else, grab the information, download it and send it out. They can self-serve this stuff quite a lot as well. That's basic, that's easy, we're done. But these are the kind of things that are starting to come in more and more. So how much do our academics collaborate internally is something that has actually been a really difficult one to answer. There is a dashboard widget in Pure, but it doesn't really work very well. And you can't drill down, and when you have such a big organisational structure as ours, you can't aggregate the organisational structure up at all. So it's been quite a challenge for us to really say, okay, just looking at our outputs, can we really identify where we've got medics and historians or, engineers and arts students or whatever all collaborating together with their research? And that's something that the university really wants to get an idea of, but we just haven't been able to do what we need to do with the Pure data to answer that question yet. What does our engagement look like with a particular partner? This one I think is the really key one that we just have a real challenge for. What are we doing with Rolls-Royce? What are we doing with Jaguar Land Rover? That's not just about saying who did we publish with in Jaguar last year, or what research project, or what funding did we get from them. It's about actually what engagement activity was there. How do we know as a university what we're doing? How can we show that relationship with a certain partner? And that's something that we are struggling with at the minute to try and identify easily with data across so many different systems. They're really not a chance, don't even want to engage. I know I can't answer these questions that come in quite a lot. This top one especially, what does our activity in China look like? We have an India Institute, we have a China Institute. They want to be able to talk about the broad work that they're doing and actually what's going on in China. They want to be able to benchmark our engagement activity with China as a whole, not just one institution and not just our publications, to be able to see over the next few years with the work they're doing how that changes. And it's tough. I mean, we can kind of do it looking at Scival, we can look at what we're publishing, we can look in Pure and kind of pull keyword searches for China out and start to get an idea. But things like our funding database, we don't always record the country where the funding has come from. And so we're having a real issue just being able to pull that out at the minute and say, actually, where does the money that's coming in from China, what is it and where's it coming from? The other one that we get quite a lot when it comes to PDRs and things like that, obviously, is kind of what's our research activity over a certain amount of time? And that question is coming out more and more to say not just publications, not just research grants. That one's easy to answer if it's just in Pure. I've got a report set up for individuals that pulls in all of their activity within Pure, and we can run that off for a day range, and that goes into promotions panels and things like that really easily. But when we're starting to say, again, these kind of engagement data that are held elsewhere, how we can start bringing that together is really difficult, because quite often they will have some activities in Pure and they will have some stuff in the CRM. So the kind of barriers overall that we have an issue with is data quality. Obviously, a lot of this is manual input, and so we can't always guarantee that people can spell China correctly or Land Rover correctly. Lack of awareness actually about all of the different systems. Sometimes when we're trying to pull this data together, we don't even know where some of it is kept within the institution, and that makes it a real challenge. Time and resource, obviously, this is a long-term thing to get this right, and getting the appetite up to say we need to start fixing this, we need to start gluing some of these data together in a different way is quite a big challenge when we've got ref and everything else to do. And we've got these partial integrations within the data warehouse. We do pull information from Pure and other systems into the warehouse, but actually we're not very good at gluing those together yet. And it kind of means we end up with something like this, that we kind of think, okay, yeah, we know a bit what this data says, we understand what that says, even though we can see it's a bit wrong. And when that's down to an individual or something like that, that might be okay for a small query. But when we're talking about the bigger queries and the bigger strategic questions that we want to answer, is that good enough, or do we need it to be better? The other thing we come up with quite often is, or should we just go and buy something else? There must be something else out there that does it. And obviously Elsevier don't do this, but other suppliers might promise the world when they're giving you a new system and saying that it will do everything for you, and we can quite easily fall into that trap. And I think maybe we have gone down that road a few times of saying, we'll just go and buy some data from somewhere else and that will help us, instead of really thinking about what we've got and what we can do with it. So what we are doing, there has been a recognition within the institution that we have to do something with our data. This is not just about Pure, this is generally. The data management group has been established this year. It's looking at data stewarding and data ownership practices. It's looking at how we make sure that our data architecture is correct, about what we do in the future, what our BI strategy should be, how we should be doing the reporting, how the data warehouse should be set up. They're really crazy exciting meetings, I've got to say. It is about balancing the strategic demands and investments with what we've got to do. There are some really big ideas. We've got a new head of BI within IT services who has some really strong plan for how he wants to start bringing all of the data from all systems within the institution into a big warehousing service. He talks quite often about data lakes, which I assume will look like this. I don't really know what they are, but he says they're going to solve everything. And I believe him. But actually, sometimes it's about translating that strategy into operation. How do we actually do this? And people get surprised that it costs a bit of money and a bit of time to do that. Cleaning data in Pure takes time. It is laborious, it's ongoing. We did not do it very much. When we first got Pure, we put everything in, we started doing ref. Every so often I'd say, guys, look at the amount of external logs we've got. Should we do something about that? And everyone would go, no, I don't think so. And then we'd move on. And we are 6 years down the line now with underlying really bad data to a lot of what we've got, which means we're really limited with what we can do. We've recently had a process this year where we funded some students to come in and work on Scopus profiles for our academic staff. I got funding for this because it links into the international league tables, and so it was really easy to say, just a couple of thousand, please. We'll get some students in. They sat with academics, they got their CVs, they looked at Pure, and they went through their Scopus profiles and just ran through the cleanup, because the workflows within Scopus and SciVal are really easy to get those profiles updated. All they had to do was sit and update, and the data was improved, and it's made a real difference. And there is a real positive feeling within the institution that we've done something to an external data set that we know can help influence our league table position. Translating that positivity into the institution and into Pure has been harder. I don't really know why. I just don't think we've been able to articulate the benefit of why we need to make the data structures in Pure better and what it could actually achieve if we did it. Again, like, he turns up in my presentations a lot. Looking after the data, yeah, it takes time. We've actually the external persons and the external orgs we've got there, that's a snapshot I took this week. We have been doing some work recently. We have been merging some of these records. So actually, this is much of an improvement as it was 6 months ago. The numbers were much higher. But this is scratching the surface. We are just merging things together. So because we've got, I think we had 200 Cancer Research UK external orgs at one point. We've merged all of those together. We haven't gone into the metadata. We haven't expanded that out and really started building up the information about these external orgs so that we can do more with it, especially like the geographical information and things like that. We're not even close to starting on that. But I do worry that just thinking about how we clean up the data in Pure actually is, it's only a small aspect of this. It's not the only thing that we need to be doing. And I do wonder, even if we cleaned up Pure completely, and even if we made our external orgs as beautiful and as full of metadata as they could be in Pure, is that enough? Does that, on its own, do what we need to answer some of those questions that I brought up earlier? And I kind of feel we're going, this is Pure right now. This is, I kind of feel that we would maybe get to this state, but I still don't think that that's good enough. I think there's more we need to do around linking things together. And as some people know, I've been writing my slides the past 2 days. So I've been able to kind of take advantage of some of the things that were said yesterday. It's really interesting, I think, that we've talked so much about data quality yesterday and today. And this was one that came up, so thanks whoever tweeted this. The CCIC idea, I think, great. I mean, I really liked seeing this yesterday, and it is something that I think we have to do more of. And those of us who have been Pure customers for a long time, it's a big challenge for us. And what I say to any new customer when I'm talking to them is think about your data quality straight away, because we waited 6 years, and it's not, it's going to be hard to pull back from that. But isn't that box an amazing colour for this room? I wonder actually whether or not we can get to 3 of these and not the 4th, and I think it's the 4th one that's really important. Complete, correct, current, like I said, if we got all of that right in Pure, we would be a long way there. But this interconnected idea isn't just about bringing data into Pure and connecting data sets into Pure. I think it's about saying, actually, how do we get these systems working together in a slightly different way? Activities I wanted to pick up as one example of this. So around activities, these are the teams within the institution that I know have a stake in collecting activities data and information about what academics are doing, what engagements they're having with external people. The press office and public affairs, they want to know what's going on. They're really good at collecting it, and actually they do sit and put it into Pure for us. The research support team, my team, obviously we have an interest from a ref point of view. We need to be able to know the kind of big conferences and the big prizes and things like that we can put in for ref. International relations, they have a lot of their own databases. They have a lot of their own spreadsheets and things. They are the kind of people that are asking what's our activity in China, and they're starting to collect some of that stuff themselves in their own way because they need it. And the funding teams as well, I think they have a lot of different databases and spreadsheets and actually just knowledge in their head as to what's going on that, again, isn't captured in Pure or anywhere else. So it's kind of spread across quite a lot of different systems, this information. Pure is one of them. Blackboard, the CRM, is the other main one, but then there's all these little ones. For me, I don't think Pure is the place to put all of this. I did 2 years ago when Brian presented in Berlin and was talking about the new activities module. I kind of jumped up from that session and said, well, that's it. That's what I'm presenting on next year. I'm going to tell everyone about our amazing new activities and how much we've put in there and what we're doing with all the data. 2 years later, we've got it in and we've started using it, and we've thought about some of the templates that we want to put together. But we very quickly realized when we were doing a lot of our kind of focus groups, bringing these teams together and saying, what do you want? That actually Pure wasn't the right place to put some of this stuff. So for me, the data warehousing idea seems to be the best place to put some of this stuff, but it's how we link some of it together. Activities information in Blackboard, in a CRM, and Pure are structured differently, and it's about how we are able to link those together and think about the same structures of data in different systems so that we can report on them better. It's time consuming. obviously. We do have things like APIs from Scopus and SciVal. We can start thinking about the kind of data we can, how we can improve some of this stuff. And I think there is a lot that we could do in Birmingham as well. This isn't just saying the systems don't work and throwing our hands in the air and saying we're not going to bother. There is a lot of stuff we have to do to be able to say how can we improve our data quality, how can we think about our other systems and the structures of data in those that we can link together. But we can't do it alone. I don't think it's just a case that we haven't structured our data or our data warehouse correctly. I think it is thinking more about how systems together might be able to work and actually working with the suppliers with some of that stuff. It's also, I would hope, not just a problem that we're having. I would like to think that there are others out there struggling with the same kind of thing. And I think, for me, the challenge, whilst we have systems like this, whilst we're spending the time and asking researchers to give us so much information, it is incumbent on us to be able to use it properly. We have to be showing what we're doing with this data, what value we're getting out of it, why they're spending the time on it. And so anything that we can do to kind of close that circle is important. Because these big questions, the examples I raised earlier, if we can't answer those, if we're not able to kind of go to our leadership teams and say, this is what we're doing in China, this is how things have changed, these are what our internal collaborations look like, these are how we want to answer the questions. Actually, why are they investing in these systems and why are they giving us more resource? And I can see down the line in a couple of years saying, actually, we want to de-invest from some of this stuff because it's not giving us, at a university leadership level, the kind of things that we need to know. So are we storing it in the right way? There are a couple of things here that are talked about quite often as the saviours of some of this. ORCID is talked a lot about. CRUD APIs are the things that we say, okay, they're going to start helping us link stuff together. I think they do a little bit. I don't think they do everything. ORCID is great, again, at an individual level, but as soon as you have a researcher with an ORCID who sets their data to not being public, then suddenly we can't use it in a way that we want to, and our data sets aren't going to be complete. For me, the shared taxonomies thing is the obvious, easy answer, but it's also the really difficult one to implement. The reason why we're able to link things together and report in Pure about an activity that a school or a college are doing is because we have our organisational structures in Pure and our people and all of those records sewn together in a really nice, easy way. We don't have that when it comes to external organisations. I want to be able to say Rolls-Royce in this system, in this system, in this system, internally and externally held data sets. I want to be able to glue those together in one way and identify that Rolls-Royce means Rolls-Royce in every system. That's a big piece of work. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with it, but I think it is, for me, starting to become really clear that this has to be a priority for us as a community to say we need to put some time into actually getting this going and getting this working. And I think this is where my mind has changed over the past few years. When I first started working on Pure, my mindset very much was we'll put all of our research information in Pure. It will be the one place, it will be the single source of truth for our research activity within Birmingham. And I've started to change my mind on that over the past 12 months when we've been looking at how we do this. It's not, I don't think we'll ever be in a position to be like that. And waiting until we can get there actually means that we can't do the work that we want to, and we can't report the way that we want to. For me, I think we need to start thinking about Pure as living in a much kind of bigger ecosystem with everything else. There are always going to be local preferences about how to report information. And so whilst the reporting module in Pure, and I really love the new reporting module, and I think we're going to be using it a lot to serve some questions, is never going to be able to answer the really big questions because we want to be able to chop and change and slice our data in different ways than someone else might want to. So we need to be able to use things like Tableau and other bigger systems like that to be able to do that work. The other thing is Pure isn't a CRM. The kind of activities information and the kind of stuff that needs to be held in CRMs is not something we're ever going to be able to hold in Pure. But in the same sense, CRMs aren't Pure either, and there are things that we can show to business engagement and to Darrow that they don't have information for. They also want to be able to see how publications and projects and everything else came out of their engagements, and they're not able to see that either. They have all of this engagements activity, they don't have the outcomes of that. So it's working together to understand how we can look at that whole life cycle. So that's really, I mean, I feel bad because I've just said, look at all my problems, and I have no solutions. But I don't. So I'm highlighting an issue and hoping that someone else is going to come up with a solution. But I think it's really easy sometimes to focus on the big questions like ref and era, and for new customers around just implementing Pure and getting it going and rolling out. As one of the old-timer customers, I think for me, I feel this has to be the next big priority, and I don't really know how we prioritize this over everything else, because everything is the next big priority. But I think this one rumbles along under the surface for a long time. And if we could get this right, if we could think about how we link data sets together in the right ways, then actually the potential for what we could do with Pure would just expand even further to where we are already. And I have no clue what time was like there. Was that 10 minutes? Was that 2 hours?
It was 25 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So we have 20 minutes.
Oh my god. And I talked so slowly as well.
Well, we have a lot of time for both. First, thank you.
Thank you.
So the good news is we have tons of time for questions, and let's make this as interactive a session as possible. I think you've thrown a couple of big questions at us as an audience, and so I think it'd be great to see some reactions.
Well, I mean, I would be interested. Is this something that other people feel is an issue, or am I mithering about something that no one else cares about?
I see some head nods.
About the mithering, or that you agree? Yeah.
Do you want to comment a little bit on the? I'm just picking on you because front table because we saw some head nodding. But would you like to share a little bit of what your view on this is? Thank you.
The first thing that comes to mind to me is that you start with Pure and you think, oh, we have a solution, but we can do more, and we can do more, and we can do more. And the mountain's growing bigger and bigger and bigger. So I feel the same. And I think there are a lot of household jobs, like you mentioned before. We all do at every institution in the whole world. And we all have big suppliers who do the same. Can't we get there any, how shall I say, collaboration on that? Because this costs so much time and effort on every institution. So that would be one of the first things maybe that we could all have, how shall I say, can't find the English word, that would work for us all. So that's the first thing that comes into my mind.
Yeah, I think we're all working on this stuff separately. We're all trying to clean up our own data sets for, especially kind of on the external org side of things. That we're duplicating effort really in all of our separate systems. And obviously there are GDPR issues, and we can't share all of our data, but there must be ways that we can share things in a better way. And even just some of the structures. The internal and external person structure always kind of confuses me. We might quite often have a new member of staff that has come in. We might have some of their outputs that are in Pure, and they're in Pure as an external person. They come as an internal person, then we manually have to kind of sit there and go, oh no, actually, let's change that person over. If we have ORCIDs connected to all of these, if we're able to just kind of say, when that new person comes in, Pure pick up and say, Clive and Clive, they're the same Clive. Let's join them together. Actually, why do we have external and internal person records as separate? We should just have person records, surely. And then there wouldn't be that kind of separation of data sets in Pure that causes so many issues. So actually, sometimes I think simplifying the way that we're collecting things might enable us to do more.
So thank you for this. It was very interesting. I've been struggling with the external organization. So actually, I don't know if this question is going to be to you or to Elsevier people, but I think, because I actually started to clean the external organization. And when you first start, you think, yeah, but it's just to merge those two together. But what I found is the problem is that you need different kind of levels on the external organization.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have for the research output, I mean, then it's the it's the university that is interesting. It's not interesting to keep a full record of the entire organization structure for University of Copenhagen. It's just nice to know what kind of collaborations do we have with the University of Copenhagen. But at the same time, this organization is also used in the personal profile for the CV and so on. And if you you don't want just like the top level on your CV, you want Department of Mechanics. So we've been struggling with that because since we need to keep those and at the same time have this top node, then since we have Department of Mechanics, constantly new information added to that external organization. And for us, it's really hard to like find those. I mean, we can't go in every external organization every day and move them right. So that's more of a general question. Is that possible to do like a hierarchy in the external organization where you could like put them under, maybe a little bit invisible? I don't know. I've been struggling with that. So, but I think on the other hand that you really should separate internal and external persons, because I think that the error source would be too great if you had one of the same.
I think you could, for personalised, I think you can have a marker to say this person is employed here and this person isn't, but they're two separate data sets. If we had the same metadata
or
for both,
or a bulk,
then they're just they would be easier to match together. From the external orgs side, a hierarchy, absolutely, I agree. That's what's needed. They're not detailed enough to do what we need to do. The kind of questions that people want to ask about our collaborations with external partners, we can't do. Partly because the external orgs in Pure just aren't. The data isn't big enough. There isn't. It's not complicated enough almost to be able to make those kind of linkages. There's some work that was done. So in our CRM, the Blackboard CRM that Business Engagement have just put in recently, they've actually put in an organisation structure for their external orgs. They've built that. It's a hierarchy. Blackboard manages it really well, and they're able to link things together in a much better way. There's also Nick at Queen's University in Belfast did some work with Pure where he managed all of their external organisations in Pure, and he now feeds that into their CRM so that they can start linking those two together. So there are bits of work around, I think, where people are starting to do this, but we need to just think about what do we need from this, and is it structured in the right way to allow us to get to that point?
I actually did an improvement suggestion for this a year ago or something. So if everybody here goes in +1, then maybe it jumps up.
So everyone furiously goes to Jira.
Look for Hannah Wog's all issues, and you can just +1 them.
Is there perfect. Another question here.
I was just wanted to agree about maintaining the external orgs. I mean, we sort of merge them and they're clean at the moment, I think. But it's all the underlying publication work that you have to do, and just, I mean, we'd been hoping that things would have been able to be a lot more automated when we need to change things. But unfortunately you have to keep relinking and changing, at publication level, and it's quite frustrating, and we find that people are having to redo things and move them around. So the automation of the data cleanup would be, if we could do something around that. I mean, I'm used to using other different systems where you can update things in batch and do that. That's the thing that I'm finding was missing in Pure, that would be really good if we could do a lot more automation, and then you could make things a lot better. But at the moment you have to go in record by record to fix things.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
think
the difficult thing.
To me, there's kind of a two-tier aspect to the data in Pure, that there are some areas of Pure, the bits that we use a lot around outputs and things like that, that actually some of what it does is really sophisticated and it's really great, but there is this kind of underlying, the master data actually that sits under all of this isn't as sophisticated as it needs to be, and there aren't those kind of workflows and automation, like you say, to be able to do that. And it's not the sexy bit, is it? It's not the bit where you can kind of show and say, look, we've done this and this is the big change that's happened straight away. And it's not the kind of thing that personal users looking at it are going to recognize big changes in Pure, but actually that kind of change could really move us forward.
And even just the checking, you know, if you want to check a publication to find out if it is the right person from our internal log, you have to go back and search them again, and it's not integrated.
Yeah.
So if that could be improved, it'd be much better.
I'm not sure if anyone from the data models team is here, but maybe it's a good discussion to continue over the post-conference drinks, potentially. Do you have another question? If not, I do have a comment from the online audience that...
Hi, guys.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for still being on the line with us. In fact, I'll share a little bit more about that later. But there's, I think someone is really empathizing with one of the statements you made about the struggles to integrate across systems, and that's definitely an issue for us. We do not have a stick like REF in our country to force the use of Pure, and so many different systems on campus and lots of different resistance to sharing data. And I kind of like this topic of resistance to sharing.
Yeah.
Wasn't yet a theme, I think, but I'm kind of wondering, has there been resistance in some of the systems and the owners of those systems in order to...
Internally, no, I don't think so. There's a little bit of a worry with the CRM that there is some data in there that they wouldn't want to share. Some of their customer information, that's not something they can just throw into the mix with everything else. But actually, as an institution, I think everyone is really hungry to be able to link all this together, because we're all being asked these questions. You know, we're from all sources. You know, the Pro-Vice Chancellor for International, for Research, for Impact, they've got shared agendas, and they need to be able to answer questions in a slightly different way that do cover a lot of data sets. And so I think as an institution, we really want to be able to move this forward and get it done. But the kind of nitty-gritty work underneath to get there is the challenge, and I think that's where we get stuck.
So, can I just quickly?
Oh, yeah, hi.
So I didn't follow the whole talk. I came in quite late, so sorry about that. I've been hearing the comments, and you know, I've had a number of conversations with people over the last 2 days about external and internal persons and orgs, and just the cleanup that needs to happen there, and the kind of work that we need to do there as well. So I think I just wanted to make a comment that we're aware of it, and we're looking at how we can make changes to the way that we're working with it. The only problem is that those two concepts are so core to Pure. It's tied into so many things. And changing the way we work with external and internal is a big operation for us, right? So it's really going to be difficult for us to, first of all, model something that we think is going to work, and then lift everything up onto that as well, and then move everything over as well. And the second thing is just, you know, there's a few ideas we've had over time, and one of the ideas is about creating this kind of superset of users across all of the Pure community, so that we know that, you know, this person is in this institution, is also a Pure user, and we have a superset that we can just kind of pick up immediately and say, oh, we know this person is this, and there's one ID, if you would, that's being shared. But, you know, ideas like that require all of our user group to buy into it, to say, yes, I'm willing to have that one superset. My users will be represented in that and stuff as well. So there's some of those levels of discussion that we've also got to have as a user group as to how can we bring that together. And just, you know, there are levels of complication on internal and external person, for example, where there's a lot more data on the internal person. So again, apologies, you might have actually dealt with this in your presentation, but you know, just GDPR-wise, there's a lot of data that we would not have on external persons that we do have on internal persons. And generally, most of our customers are syncing with HR systems for internal persons. So we'd have to make that decision as to what's the core set of data that is a person. And then from there, we can determine what else goes for internal and what's, you know, external. But we are having those discussions also on levels of translation, for example, because we know that in like Russian, for example, the translated name of a person is important, and it also goes for the external person. We can't deal with that in the way that we use external and internal persons right now as well. So this is a bigger problem. We are looking at it, but it's not going to be a quick fix. And we'll probably be coming back to you over time with ideas and suggestions and just see how we can lift everything up onto a better solution as well.
I think I totally understand. I mean, I think a lot of what I've said today was we in Birmingham can't work out how to do some of this stuff to link our own systems together. It's going to be a challenge for everyone, I think. I feel like we have to start on it, because until we start, we're not going to get to the end. But also, I think there are things we can learn from elsewhere. You know, Scopus is able to link together authors and their affiliations when they've moved across institutions in a way that Pure doesn't for external people. So if we've got Clive again, who moves around institutions, Clive comes up as an external person 3 or 4 times if his affiliation is in different places. But we know Scopus can do that. And so I think we need to kind of think about how some systems are doing things and bring all of that together and learn to see what we can do.
Well, so yes, so without going into too many
Yeah.
details, I think specifically that example, for example, what we would see probably is that a person moving is probably going to show up quite quickly in the HR systems, and then we probably expect that person to show up quickly in Pure as well, but in that Pure from that institution, right, where the HR system is sending that change through, and again that comes back to that topic of can we raise that to a higher level, so that when that person's changed and come into your institution, can that information be shared with others, that person has now changed institutions, and that's a level of agreement that we have to come to, right, that we all agree that this is something that we can share, that movement between institutions and things like that. But again, that's part of that discussion that we need to have, and I completely agree with you. We have to just get started.
Yep.
And so we are getting started with that discussion. I think if you've been talking to Thomas, I don't think he's in this room right now, but if you've been talking to Thomas, then you would hear him also talking about this topic. We've been picking up on it quite a bit, and through the user groups as well, we're picking up that it's becoming a bigger discussion. So we are starting.
I think the user groups is where we need to start on this. So I was talking to Thomas yesterday, and I've suggested for him to come to the UK user group next year and start talking to everyone about this and just generally the data quality ideas and what needs to happen. I think we as a community have a responsibility in our user groups to go back and have these conversations. And it might be that you go back and have them, and all your user groups say, no, we don't care about that. That's not top of the list. But if it is something we care about, if it's something that we want to get moving on, I think we can bring forward some of that for Elsevier and say these are the kind of things. And within what is a really big concept, these are the things that we think maybe you need to start on first.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great, I think we have time for one more question.
It's more of a comment, since I'm from a place where we have no user groups.
Oh, come to ours, we're lovely.
Yeah. Then actually, I think that would be great if there were user groups more connected to the modules and the data instead of the geographical user groups. Since I think that we have a lot of common with customers in the UK, but also in the US and in Denmark. But we're not doing ref, so yeah, and we're not doing, yeah. So that I would really like to be part of, and I don't know if I can start a guerrilla version user group, but I think that would be if that could be coordinated in some way, and for Elsevier also it's maybe easier to call for who's interested in being part of a discussion around this and not just focus on the regional user groups.
I mean, I've been to all 4 Pure international conferences, and that comment is made every single year. Every year we walk out of here and we say we have to have module, cross-country user groups and not just regional user groups. But it's a challenge, another challenge that we need to try and overcome, because our voice together, and I think our voice as countries together, is bigger when it comes to talking to Elsevier.
And I've been to all of those 4, so it might have just been me saying it 4 times.